Well, welcome back. This is Doug and Cindy with Help Me Help Mama LiveCast today with more of your questions. And if you have questions, please enter them in the comment box below. Please share this with someone. We've got a lot of new people that have joined lately, and so welcome. If this is the first Help Me Help Mama LiveCast you've seen, welcome. We hope you enjoy this and will participate by asking your questions and by answering other people's questions. If you're a family caregiver, you've learned from the trenches. So if you see someone else asking a question, they're expressing a concern, give them a word of encouragement. And if you've got a tip, feel free to leave those on our community page. And today we've got several questions. One of them was just how to pay for really all of this along the caregiver journey. We've talked about several things the last several weeks, starting with, staying at home, and there's various different iterations of that, staying at home by yourself, the kids just stopping by to check on you at Journey Stop 1, and then as you decline just a little more, you may need one of the kids is staying with you more, checking on you more, maybe actually staying with you some. And then as you decline more, you may have to have professional caregivers come in, non-medical and medical caregivers. Non-medical would be like the sitters. Medical would be if maybe you've been in the hospital and come home, well, you'd need nurses, aides, therapists of different types. And then, then there's independent living facilities, assisted living facilities, skilled care facilities, private skilled care facilities. There's private assisted living facilities. So let's talk about a few of these quickly. The first one that I guess the easiest and hardest at the same time, is just to get out your checkbook and write a check. And unfortunately, we see a lot of people that just pay till they're broke, and this is particularly bad where there's a well spouse at home. I use the air quotes, well spouse, because a lot of times we see well spouses are not so well themselves. They've been there taking care of their loved one at home for all these years. They've taken care of each other. And now, a lot of times one's got the mind, one's got the body, and they're just there hanging on, trying to take care of each other. And a lot of times if the well spouse takes care of the sick spouse for too long, they're incapacitated themselves. They're down on their back, or sometimes they die first. So a lot of times that if you're at home, it's just private pay, paying out of pocket.
And that's paying for professional caregivers.
Yeah,
sometimes the kids volunteer their time. Sometimes the kids can be paid if there's a care agreement, and if that's, we do that for purposes of planning down the road. If you need to apply for benefits to pay for nursing home through the state.
And if you're going to pay the kids, make sure you visit an elder law attorney and get a caregiver agreement in place, because it can, if down the road, if you don't, down the road you go to nursing home and apply for Medicaid assistance, well, then the checks you've written to the kids look like gifts to the state agency that administers Medicaid, and they'll say, it may say it's a gift, and that would delay your the time it would take for you to get Medicaid. So paying people at home or like in an independent living facility, usually it's just private pay out of pocket. You're just writing a check every month.
If you have long-term care insurance, that would pay for in-home care if you meet the requirements. Also, go ahead.
In long-term care insurance, that's something you either have or you don't. I mean, when it comes time that you need it, you can't get it because you're sick. You waited too long. If you get it when you're 30 years old and are in good health, well, then it doesn't cost much money, but not people do. Even if you get it when you're 50 years old, it's a lot less expensive. Another ways selling fixed assets. I know sometimes people don't like to think about that, but especially if the parents are trying to fund this out of their money and they don't have enough liquid cash, well, maybe selling fixed assets like land or larger items of personal property. Some people do that.
We talked about a reverse mortgage on the house if they own their
Reverse
home.
mortgage, yeah, on the home to get money. Sometimes contributions from kids. If maybe just a little bit extra is needed, sometimes the kids come up with money to help mom or dad stay home or pay for the type of care that they need. If it gets to assisted living facility, those are paid with a lot of times with just out of pocket. A lot of people just pay for those out of pocket. Yeah. Sometimes if it's a veteran, they may be able to qualify for VA aid and attendance. You just have to check with your VA representatives on that. Like Cindy said, if there's company insurance or long-term care insurance, it may pay for that. But a lot of times assisted livings are just out of pocket. Some assisted livings have a few Medicaid beds, just a few, and that would pay for assisted living for people that qualified for Medicaid assistance. The skilled care facilities, if you go to a nursing home, that's down at the further end of the spectrum. Well, then usually a lot of people start off paying for that out of pocket, and that's usually the most expensive type of facility care. And if you're writing a check for in our area, it's $5,000-6,000 a month. In a lot of areas, it's at least double that or triple that. For very expensive care, and you can take how much money you've got and divide it by $5,000 a month or $10,000 a month or whatever, and see how long you could pay it. I mean, even for people that have a pretty substantial amount of money, it can drain their account pretty quick. So the goal there is to try to qualify for Medicaid as soon as possible. Medicaid is a payor for people that need nursing home care for the long haul. So that's just kind of a quick coverage of the whole spectrum, particularly if you get down toward this end of a nursing home. You definitely want to check with an elder law attorney, because you don't want to just pay out of pocket until you're totally out of money, because when you're totally out of money, you're out of options, and especially if there's a spouse at home, they're going to need some of that money to support themselves, and there's laws in place to protect the spouse at home, to make sure that they're okay and they just don't spend down to zero. We've actually seen many people that have spent down to zero before we ever see them, and they just didn't know. Nobody tells them, and they just spend and spend and spend and spend until they're totally broke, and then they apply for Medicaid. And if that's the case, you definitely want to check with an elder law attorney. You don't want that to happen in your case, because a little bit of planning goes a long way to protect certain types of assets. So, well, I think that answered that question. So, do we have any others we need to go over today?
I want to respond to one here. The question that they asked was, how do I find time so that I'm not lost in the caregiver process? So they want to find time for themselves. The new year is about to be upon us, and that's something I think you really need to think about, is making time for yourself as a caregiver. I know how many tasks that are involved in caregiving, but it's like I've said so many times, if you don't take care of yourself, you can't take care of others, because it can ruin your health. So as the new year approaches, find a way to take some time. If it's when your loved one is asleep, do something for yourself. If you can get someone else in there for a couple of hours a day, even if all you do is go to the other part of the house and lock the door and sleep, do that for yourself, because I've seen too many times when the caregiver just literally broke their health being a caregiver. So if you want to keep your loved one home longer, you've got to take care of yourself.
Several comments on our Facebook page. If you haven't been to our Facebook page, you should go, because there is this Help Me Help Mama, and go to Facebook, type in Help Me Help Mama, and you can go to our page. There's so many great comments on there.
We've got caregivers helping caregivers. So
Um,
you're doing it every day. You find new ways to do things. So if you would, please share that with everybody.
and there's a quote on here: "When you are a caregiver, you know that every day you will touch a life, or a life will touch yours." And Leona York commented, thanks Leona for commenting, says, amen to that. Working at various nursing homes, we're told not to get attached to the patients. That rule is so hard to obey. Some of the patients really latch on to anyone that pays attention to them, even if it's a small amount of time. They get wicked lonely. So, and they do get lonely, and they appreciate the help. And I know the people that work in nursing homes, it's impossible to not get attached to the residents. They become like your family, and yeah, they do get attached. And thanks for your caregiving efforts in nursing homes. One lady here says, I was with my mom who has Alzheimer's on Christmas Eve. This is Maureen. She said that's a good picture of you sitting on a shelf. I said, what? And I looked up, and it was a picture of her sister when she was real young. She said, we do favor a lot, but this is such a horrible disease to watch all memories taken away and dignity as well. So it is, and a lot of folks have it, and seems to be getting worse. So if you're caring for someone with Alzheimer's, it takes an extra measure of grace to do that, and you're to be commended for your work as a family caregiver, and we appreciate that. So I think that's about all we've got for today. Keep sending those questions in and comments. We thank you for that, and share this with someone today, some other family caregiver that you think it would be beneficial for. And we will talk to you again tomorrow on Help Me Help Momma LiveCast. Have a great day.